Welcome to the Asian Women of Power podcast, where your host, Kimchi Chow, shares tips, tools, insights, and strategies on how you too can create the life you love with freedom, power, and choice. Kimchi will show you how to break free of your cultural boundaries and boldly live the life of your dreams. If you are ready to transform your life, please go to www.asianwomenofpowerquiz.com and take the quiz. You may qualify for a free discovery session with Kimchi. And now, here's your host, Kimchi Chow.
Both are doctors. One is an optometrist and the other is a dentist. They both are Vietnamese refugees, first-generation immigrants. They have good practice, but something happened in their life that has led them to self-development work. And now they are coaches. What drives them? What is their message? Who do they serve? Let's find out. Let's start with Dr. Emily. When did you come to America and what led you to become a doctor?
Well, thank you very much for inviting me on the show, and thank you so much for taking the time to create the platform where we can share our story and our strategies. I'm actually, just similar to you. I was born in Vietnam back in the late 60s. So my family still tell me during the Tet Offensive, my mom was running for the bomb shelter and she was pregnant with me. So I was born in 1968, and 1981 is when I came to the United States. That's right when the communist Vietnamese were going to invade Cambodia, and then having that border fighting with China just like thousands of years ago. So we escaped on a boat. We were on the ocean for 7 days. First 2 days with food, and the next 5 days with just sips of water. We ended up in Malaysia, in Pulau Bidong. We were there for a couple months, and then I came to the United States. Coming to the United States, I always tell people that my luggage were hope and faith, because obviously we came without anything. And the drive for me at that point was to get a good education, to get a good job, and be able to help the family. And, being a doctor is sort of that pinnacle that we all think that's going to give us the best, the status and the money and the support. So just by chance, I was thinking about becoming a pharmacist, actually, and one of my friends talked me out of it. I didn't want to be a doctor. I did not want to be tied up with a beeper. Back in the days, you have a beeper and he will page you, and then you got to go find a phone to call back. And so my friend introduced me to dentistry. So I went to dental school, really had not a whole lot of idea what it took. I had a couple of fillings in my mouth, and that was about it. That was my experience with dentistry. But as I went through school, what I enjoyed the most was the privilege of taking care of patients. In our industry, we have that built-in checkup every 6 months, and I'm sure similar to Susan, she's seeing patients once a year. So there's that built-in relationship with patients. But when you have your business for me right now, going on 25 years, you see a lot of changes in your patients' lives. Your honor that you could touch their lives and you're be part of their lives. So I would say that the primary reason for going into dentistry or being a doctor is having the income and the status, and what ultimately keep me in there is the privilege of serving.
Wonderful. What about you, Susan? Dr. Susan?
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me here today with you both. It's a privilege. My story is similar yet slightly different. I'm Vietnamese, but I'm from Laos. I have never stepped into Vietnam. I was born and raised in Vientiane, the capital of Laos. So most people would say, well, then you're Laotian. No, I'm 100% Vietnamese blood. My roots is from central Vietnam, the Hue and the Nang area. And so some generations back, my grandparents, my great-grandparents, during the Civil War, of whether it's in Vietnam, Laos, Thailand, they would move to wherever to keep their family safe. So my parents were born and raised in Laos also. So being on the living in Vientiane, which is located on the Mekong River, I was born in 68 during the Tet Offensive. And when Saigon fell in 75, my father worked for the government in Laos for the Vietnamese government. So he kind of heard and knew through the grapevine that all heck was going to break loose. So he fled first over to Thailand. Then he hired somebody to get my mom and us 5 kids. I'm the eldest with 4 younger brothers to flee across the river. Now, with how it was back in Asia then, once you cross the Mekong River to Thailand, you're free. I mean, you don't have to worry about the communists, because as soon as Vietnam fell, Laos, which was monarchy, we had a king and queen and all that, they abdicated the throne. And so as soon as Vietnam fell, Saigon, South Vietnam fell, Laos fell to communism. So it was in 75 when we fled. We fled over the Mekong River to Thailand, and we were in a refugee camp. We lived in a refugee camp for a year, waiting for our paper to be processed and family in the U.S. to sponsor us and all. And we headed over to the U.S. in 76. So first we landed in San Francisco because my uncle sponsored us. My parents were like, wow, this is a really big city. And, we came with nothing. We came with not knowing the English language, the American culture, no money, just starting from bottom. San Francisco was just a huge city. And my parents were saying, we need something that is a little more conducive to raising a family. The kids can have a yard to run around. And also, because my uncle was a bachelor living in this little apartment in this, what seemed to us, a big city. So we had family in St. Petersburg, Florida, and they said, come over here. We had, I had an aunt and uncle there, and they said, look, it's warmer weather like back home in Asia, and it's not big city like San Francisco. So we were in San Francisco maybe not even 6 months, settled in St. Petersburg, Florida, and my family's been there since 76. And it's been good. They're still there. I live across the bay in Tampa now, but all the family are across the bay in St. Petersburg. Similarly to Dr. Emily there, I guess this typical immigrant thought process is, the status of being a doctor and the income. So being the eldest, the pressure was on from my parents. I am the eldest. I have to do well in school. I have to set the examples for the 4 brothers. Failure was not an option. So it's just, and I was mini mom from an early age. I helped mom and dad take care of the boys. But I went to college, but I had a gap in between college and heading off to graduate school to get my doctorate. I spent 6 years after my bachelor. I did medical research. That was great learning and all. And I thought maybe I may, make that a career. But I found that I didn't like being a lab rat. I needed people around me. So, but I always knew that I wasn't going to stop until I got a doctorate degree in something. But so after 6 years of doing that, I applied, went into optometry school, and it was not easy. It was a lot of work, but it was good. It was good, hard work, very, very purposeful. And I've been practicing for 20 years now. I've been blessed with that. And that's where it takes to where I am today. And of course, later on, we can talk about what happened and that pivoted us into coaching, the coaching world. But yes, at the end of the day, like Dr. Emily, like many of us, I love serving, and it's building relationships. At the end of the day, it's all about the relationship building. So that's my journey over to America.
Wonderful. Thank you. So looking back, how long did it take you to to obtain the doctorate degree. And were you glad that you made that decision? If you have to repeat your life again, would you repeat that same path?
I would. I would repeat it, and I'm glad I did. It was not only just the doctorate degree, it was many of life's lessons also, in terms of, again, the different relationships I built along the way, and life's lessons as to the work ethics, the studying ethics, because I do a lot of mentoring of college students that come into the office now that do shadowing. They want to know if, okay, do I want to become an eye doctor myself? So let me go spend some time with an eye doctor and see what does it mean to be an eye doctor. But I don't want them to just know about being an optometrist. I want them to understand it's being an eye doctor, it's being running a business, an entrepreneur, a businesswoman. I want them to understand all of that. And especially part of my mentoring is that it's different between my male patients and my male students and my female students. I said, because this choice of specialty, you got to look like Dr. Emily said in the days of pagers and beepers, is I didn't want to be a slave to being on call and running into the hospital in the middle of the night, tending to whatever needs. Different specialties allow you to have different lifestyle. And that's especially with my female students. I said, you want to think about that later on when you want to start a family or take time off or something you can work full-time, part-time. You got to think, because when they're young, they're not thinking about that. And of course, my guy students, they're like, yeah, okay, whatever. But that's something I like sharing. I just want to get them to think, have a different perspective on things. Yes.
Dr. Emily, what's your thought about that?
Yeah, I would definitely repeat the process. I think for me, being a doctor means you're striving for, it's still status, but it's status in the sense of you're taking yourself to the top level. Being the best version of yourself, whether it's knowledge or whether it's leverage or whether it's like Susan say, whether you'll be able to mentor, right? Because you have to be at a certain position, at a certain level for people to look up to you. And I think a lot of us, or maybe just the three of us, we're so ambitious, right? We change our lives, we do this with our lives, and we want the kids to do that, and then we want people around us to do that. And so I think looking at it that way, very similar to a teacher who will be touching the kids' lives and shaping their thinking and inspiring them. When you're at that position as a CEO, as a doctor, at a higher management position, or thought leader, that's what we like to call ourselves, then we have that privilege to be able to influence people. And just like, if I'm in the dental chair, then I can influence the dental patients. And as a coach or as a consultant, then I can influence other business owners. So I think a little bit of that for me has to do with ambition. That's the ambition in you that you didn't know, and then it just kind of come out as you do some things, and then you say, hey, you know what, I actually like to do that. I actually would like to tell people to do things, help people, but like coach them and lead them to do certain things. And it could be partly the genes from my parents. Both of my parents were teachers.
At what age did you realize that there is more to life than just make a living? What was the moment in your life that woke you up?
I think for me, it's as I'm going through the process of learning businesses, learning how to run business, learning how to manage my practices, I start seeing other thought leaders having that ability to monetize their knowledge. And it just kind of clicked one day several years ago where I say, you know what, I know some of this, and I want to share some of that, and I want to monetize the knowledge. I want to learn from the mentors and the other coaches, so I can be that catalyst, helping people speed up whatever process it is that they're trying to go through. So part of it is from the experience that we already have running our own businesses. And I think the other part is from being exposed to other leaders and seeing that other leaders could change people's lives, whether just with their voice, right? Like if you're listening to a Les Brown, then you think you can do anything you want. And if you're looking at somebody who built an empire, like my mentor Sharon Lecter, where she writes so many books and she influenced so many lives, and it's the financial part of it. But when you see those examples and you get inspired by those, I think that's when you have a little itch that you maybe I can do the same thing. And if you're fortunate enough to be able to work with them, then it just makes the journey easier.
So would you say that, what was the age? How old were you when you realized that? I think a certain age will have that evaluation about our lives, right? I think it could be in early 40s or something like that. What about you? You say several years ago. When was it that you have an itch?
Well, I would say about 10 years ago. So when I was 40, that was the very first time I started working with a consultant. And I've been running my dental practices successfully, and and that was actually right around when the recession, 2008, 2009, and then I didn't quite feel it in my business until about 2010, because I was running it so well that it has a little lagging effect. And when I started looking around, said, maybe I should learn different ways to do this. And I first worked with a consultant and seeing how he grew, and seeing how he leveraged a lot of what he already knows, because he happened to be a consultant that he was working with chiropractors. And he took that same knowledge and he started working with dentists. And for those few years that I was working with him, his business just it grew many, many folds, and it's only one of him, right? With that particular set of knowledge, but making it into programs where people can learn. That's why I started thinking, wait a minute, maybe I can do something like that. Maybe not to that level, because his thing was more marketing and team building, and my passion has always been about personal development, a personal growth. So, it's people say when the student is ready, the teacher will appear, right? So magically, I just end up with CEO Space, and then I met Sharon, and then this whole thing just kind of took off in that direction. And so I think when you set the intention, it's like, I call it an itch, but it's when you feel I can be more and I can do more, and then you start looking, then the right people seem to come into your life. So I would encourage everybody to along your life, maybe every 5 years you ask yourself, is this enough? Is this all I could do? Or can I be more than this? And the part is, sometimes doing more may not be in your field, it could be in something else. And so keep an open mind, look around, learn from leaders. It doesn't have to be the leader of your same industry.
Kimchi, I would say not a particular, it doesn't necessarily have to be a particular age. Sometimes it's life's events that would happen to you. So with me, when you had asked, well, at what age did you realize you want to change and all? With me, it wasn't a particular age. With me, it was when I lost a younger brother. It was about 5.5 years ago. And again, with four younger brothers, I would number my brothers one through 4. So it was, so I would number the brothers 1 through 4. So it wasn't a particular age. It was losing my brother. He was 42, was 5.5 years ago, and 5.5 years ago. So I was about 47, 46, 47. And he was experiencing pain. He finally went to the doctor. He was just stubborn as anything. He was diagnosed with stage 4 liver cancer. It has metastasized. It was just too late. 9 days later, he was gone. So that woke me up. That was my rude awakening. And there was a lot of, after that, there was a lot of soul searching, a lot of asking questions. I mean, I've been blessed to work when you said, well, when did you realize that there was more to life than career and money and success of such? Is I worked hard. I built my multiple practices. I've been successful. I've been blessed with that. And life was good, just going day by day. Then losing my brother, it was like, okay, so is this it? So all these questions, you're just having this monologue as to, is this it? And as an eye doctor, I spend my day in this my exam room is a small, windowless, dimly lit room. I mean, that's what we do as an eye doctor. We keep it dim at times. And so the question I ask myself is, is this it? Am I meant to die in this windowless room? So in that soul searching, I mean, the universe just said, no, Susan, there's more. I need you to do more. You're not done. You need to get your message, your gift, and go impact lives beyond your exam room. And that's how I started moving into the coaching and public speaking field, because I coach patients. Dr. Emily would know, we're not only just dentists and optometrists, we're more than that to our patient. It's a holistic approach to our patients. I always tell patients, you're not a set of eyeballs sitting in my exam chair. You're a person as a whole. You know, I take care of you top to bottom, in to out. What you eat, what you drink, medications you take, that all affects your eye health, your vision, everything. So then the conversation, just like saying a hairstylist, a bartender, you end up coaching them, becoming their therapist, their counselor. They trust in you. They open up. So so the exam becomes, their time spent with you becomes more than just an eye exam. So oftentimes patients would say, oh, wow, you need to have your own TV show, like instead of Dr. Phil, it's Dr. Susan. And you just, so you when you open up your heart like that to help and to guide people, because again, you can see the greatest potential in people and they can't see it in themselves. So that's where that all came. And so when you ask what particular age, no, it was that event. Losing my brother was a major pattern disruption. As much as it was tough losing my brother, on that other hand, it was a blessing, because it took me, I'm on a different journey. Okay, it's allowing me to have this journey of coaching and public speaking. And again, the big thing is impacting lives beyond my exam room, taking it beyond my exam room. That's a thing.
Yeah, I got that. Some of us, a few of us, we use those events to really think and question ourselves. What am I doing here? Is it, right? So I think the impact that your younger brother, he lost his life suddenly. The impact that it had on you is different than the impact he had on other siblings. Did your other sibling do anything about their life? Have they changed their life at all?
No, Kimchi, it didn't just change me. It changed my whole family. It changed my whole family in such, but all in positive ways. I mean, we got so wrapped up with being busy. Everybody's running in different directions and all that. Now I only live probably maybe 35 miles away from my parents and my siblings. And I would go visit them every few months. No, now it's every weekend. Okay. Because there's just it's just, again, you come to realize, yes, life is too short. Everything else is not that important. At the top of the list is time with family, time with parents, time with sibling, family, family, family. And I tell you what hit hard was when I was putting together an online program, and the person that was helping me put, they said, okay, I need some pictures of you and your brother Devin, my brother that passed away. So I'm digging through, and I'm thinking, I was like, wow, this is crazy. I mean, maybe we had pictures when we were real young, but he wanted something relatively recent, right before he passed. And I was telling my husband, I said, this is crazy. There's not too many pictures of me and Devin. So that just got me thinking, it's like, wow, you didn't spend enough time with Devin. This is nuts. So my thing now is, it is time with family, period. And same with my siblings. They've come to realize whatever they were doing was not that important. I mean, the brothers, they're hanging out with friends and this and that. But now it has brought us closer and tighter. And that is, so, believe me, I was not the only one that was changed. The siblings and my parents, yes, it was tough on my parents. We always hear no parents want to bury their own child, but no, we're so much closer and so much tighter because of Devin's passing. But thank you for asking.
So I know that most of you are married, right? Does your spouse or any of your family members support you in your business, like in your practice or in your coaching business at all?
Yes. I think it's important to have that support. I hate to say it, especially our spouse, if they're not supportive, then I don't know. I would have to really be questioning that. But we, as my husband and I, you met my husband when we were in Egypt there at the WEF. And it's always about whatever is our aspirations, our dreams, is for us there to be there for one another, to support, right? To help lift each other up through our, whatever our aspirations may be. But to answer your question, yes, very supportive, because it's always about, what is it that makes you happy, Susan? Is it your practice, running your practice successfully, running it well, your coaching, your speaking, public speaking, you impacting lives, whatever makes you happy, we're there to support you and for whatever needs that you have. So to answer your question, yes, very supportive, and I'm very blessed with that. Dr. Emily?
Well, my husband is different. He is very risk adverse, right? So he can't take the risk. He can. He's very happy being an employee. So and for me, I'm already an entrepreneur in being a dentist and dealing with. So I'll give you an example. If I go home and say, hey, today Mary didn't show up to work because she didn't have a babysitter, he would say, well, why don't you fire her, right? And I'm thinking, then who's going to work? Right? I have one or two assistants. If I fire Mary, then it's harder for me to work. But him, as an engineer, they got a bunch of them, right? And they got the HR department to deal with that. He doesn't deal with it. So several years ago, we come to the understanding that we're just going to respect each other's space, and we're not going to dictate, right? Because he can't take the risk. He's the kind of person that the first day I went to work as a dentist, I came back and he said, and I remember I was 25 years old, and he said, oh, I already set up your retirement account, right? And I'm not like that. We're just gonna wing it today, and we're just gonna do whatever it takes. So when I got into this coaching business, he thinks I'm crazy, which is okay, because I think for me, I'm a little bit different from Susan. For me, it's more about my own journey, right? So if I'm clear and I say I want to do X, and he doesn't need to support it as long as he respects me doing X, right? My whole family, they think I'm crazy too, which is okay too. like they would ask me, like when I go on continuing education, and this is having to do with dentistry, right? They would say, what are you learning? I mean, haven't you learned enough? Because, you know, for dentists, we're required to take 50 hours of continuing education every 2 years. But of course, I take more than that. So they don't understand, why do you have to go and learn that? Why do you have to go and learn that? And then some of them are married to or have, you know, spouse who have dentists in their family, and that dentist doesn't do the same thing as me, right? That dentist is happy to have an office, go every day, 8 hours, and that's it. And me, even as a dentist, I wasn't just doing, you know, what a normal dentist does. So I think for me, I need the support, but the support doesn't have to be my spouse. The support doesn't have to be my family. The support could be, let's say Susan, right? Let's say I text her and say, hey, I'm really upset with whatever. And she'll text me back and tell me something to lift me up. So for me, for example, you know, the spouse, be the father, be the spouse, be there for our own family. Okay, that might be what I would just expect from him. But I think for him to be able to support me, he has to be on the same journey, and he's not. And I don't think he's the type. You know, he's a very you know, follow the rule, engineer. This is how life is supposed to be. I remember the first time I took my kids to CEO Space. So for some of your listeners who don't know what that is, it's entrepreneurial international business meeting, right? And they have a segment on certain forums. They actually have the kids there. So you come with your kids and you go to your own meeting, and your kids go to their own meeting. And I remember when I first told my kids, you guys are all going to CEO Space, and of course there's all this whining, and I said, well, you don't have a choice, you know. Mom's going, you're all going. And then the next day they said, well, Dad just told us that we should work for the government because we're going to have pension, you know, and this. And I go, does he know that you guys are all going to CEO Space? And then they go, we think he knows, but that's what he say. And I say, okay, fine. Well, you know, so he respects me where he'll let me take the kids, right, to go to the business conference. My kids, the youngest one, have been to 4 different conferences. The oldest one's been to 5 or 6. So they've been to business conference. They've been to Brennan Bouchard events. And for me, it's just, hey, I want to enrich your life. You pick what you like, but I'm filtering. You know? I want you to see entrepreneurship. I want you to see personal growth besides your school. But as long as my husband leave me alone in doing my part and enriching their lives and enriching my life, as long as we have respect for each other, I think it's okay. And I think some people, there's a conflict where they want the husband to really support them, and they don't get that. And then there's a conflict. So I think you just have to be real clear. What do you expect from your partner or your spouse? Because sometimes they can't do what you want.
I totally agree with Dr. Emily. Yes, the key thing, the important thing that we as women need to understand in marriage, right? Marriage is like a partnership, and your spouse, they are individuals, and it's important to accept who they are, right? Because if you want your spouse do, you know, support, there's so many rate of supporting. What does support mean, right? So say for Susan, she said supporting means that the spouse totally behind her and go with her and give, you know, help her out, whatever she needs. That's support to Susan. But for Emily, support means, okay, I let you do whatever you want, as long as I don't stand and stop you from doing that. And I feel the same way in my marriage as well, right? It was hard to accept that at the beginning. At the beginning, I say, how come, my husband is not supporting me? And, through many coaching session with my coaches, they say, no, he's present. He's there. He can work in the background. He take care of the house while you were traveling, or take care of the kids, or he allow you to do what you want to do without like telling you to stop it. That means support. I said, oh, okay. Yes, I realize that. And the more I learn about self-development work, like Emily said, we are on our own journey. My journey is not the same as my spouse. Even though we live in the same household, we are married, we have the same children, right? But his journey and my journey is totally different, right? So I understand what Emily goes through, and I also understand what Susan go through, and very lucky. Not many women, Susan, that have the support that you have from your spouse. Okay, I've seen so many Asian couples, they don't have support. Luckily, Emily and I do have support by their very passive support, right? They allow us to do whatever we want to do because we accept the same thing as, accept the same thing from them. We allow them to do whatever they want to do, right? We don't dictate to say, hey, you need to do this for me. That's show support. No, allow them to grow at their own pace. Allow them to do whatever they want to do, as long as we both mutually respect each other. Agree, Emily? All right. So what were the top 3 valuable lessons that you have learned about your life?
So I'll answer that one first. I think overall, obviously, we all learn a lot of things in our lives, but I think I would say the top 3, and this has come from all of the training and all the coaching that I've had. The first one is to believe in yourself. Sometimes we don't believe in ourselves because there's nobody cheering us along. I actually remember when I first told my family I applied to dental school, everybody was, why? We don't think you have the best hands. We don't think you should go to dental school. And I said, well, I don't want med school. My friends say don't not go to pharmacy school. I don't think I even thought about optometry. And I said, so then let's leave dentistry. I'm just going to go into dental school. And so I went. So I mean, when you make one of the biggest decisions in your life, and your family's, no, don't do that, right? And then you make the best out of it, and you're the most successful. It's kind of teach you along the line of, maybe I should listen to other people. I should kind of listen to my gut and believe myself first, as long as I know that I'm giving it 100%. So I think I learned that very early in life. So I was 21 when I made that decision. And then as I go along, it's always, I got to believe in myself first, because no coaches or mentors or nobody can actually make you believe in yourself. That's the work that you have to do for yourself. The second one is, I believe in order to be successful, you have to ask for help. There are people who have real big ego. They think they know everything. And usually those are the people who haven't been out there and meeting with other more successful people to understand that, success is that journey, and you don't just stop here. And there's always people above you, and there's always people, a little bit behind you. So asking for help, and even asking for help, take a lot of courage. So in the process of asking for help, whether you want support, or you want to just fast track certain things, you have to have that courage to reach out, ask people. And I learned this. I think that's one of the big things that I learned, because I thought I was pretty courageous, right? Like, I'm sharing my story and people go, oh yeah, you were on a boat and you were in refugee camp and all that. That's pretty courageous. My one thing learning when I started working with coaches and mentors, were the big piece of it was courage. And I remember, I remember when I wrote my second book, I wanted to ask Sharon Lecter to write the foreword, but I couldn't. I chickened out, right? So I went and I asked her assistant coach. And the assistant coach told me something like, why don't you just kind of write it up and then show it to me and, the foreword, and then I'll just modify it. And I go, okay. And then I thought about it and I'm thinking, oh, but that doesn't sound right. And so on one of the coaching call, I just asked Sharon, but I didn't have the gut to ask first. I have to be sort of turned down for this one for me to go, okay, I'm just going to give it a try. Worst case scenario, I'll do this one. And of course, to my surprise, she said, of course, yes. And then later, I told her, I asked the other person, and she was pretty upset. How come you didn't go straight and ask me? And I said, because I was scared, And even I worked with her for several years. The first time we went to India together, and these are kind of self-discovery, right? So I was in India with her for a whole week, and I was stressed to the max because I'm thinking, now I gotta hang out with Sharon for a whole week, right? And I told her this on the last day before we left. And she said, I can't believe you say that you were, stressed out because you have to hang out with me for a week. And she kept saying that. And these are things that, and I'm sure you see outside, you could look very confident. You could say the right thing. You could do the right thing, but you have to deal with yourself on the inside, right? And you have to know yourself, and you have to ask for help. And I think the people who ask for help more and take advantage of that and actually make something out of it, those are the people who are more successful. They just fast track things more. But then don't be an asshole, like ASK hole, right? You just ask, but then you don't do what they tell you to do. So just make sure that when you ask, they give you the advice, you actually take the advice and run with it. And I think the third thing that I think would help you be successful is to give back. I think it shows strength when you actually give back, meaning there's abundance. If you give away certain things, other people are going to give you something else, and it's replenish you, and it make you full and make you whole. And I think the people that I follow, that I study from, those are usually they are the givers. The dental consultant I mentioned to you before, he's very, very successful. And one of his things, you know how you write down your goals, right? And then you stick it in your wallet and you're supposed to read it every day, that kind of thing. Well, when I was working with him, and until now, there's a goal of giving. How much are you going to give this year? And I'm sure there are a lot of people who do that, but that would not be the majority, right? Like you have a goal of, this is how much I want to make, and these are the vacations I want to take, and this is, these are my bucket lists or whatever. But not too many people say, how much are you going to give this year? Whether you give how many hours or you give how much money, whatever it is. And if you're not sure, just say, okay, I'm going to give away $1,000 this year, right? And you pass $1,000, and the next year you say, I'm going to give away $10,000. That kind of a thing. When I first started working with that consultant, he was talking about money. It was a 2-day meeting, and I already signed up, and I drove home, and I'm thinking, I'm not sure if this is the right decision, because he kept talking about money for a whole day. But then the next day, to start the day, he said he has a goal. And his goal was to give away $50 million. And I sit there and I go, okay, I think this might work. I think I'm going to stick with this guy and see how he would give away $50 million. Right? And, in his lifetime, and he's younger than me. He's maybe 10 years younger than me. And so I think that's a very ambitious goal. It's a goal that it will force you to discipline yourself, right? Like to give. And at the same time, it builds in, the sense of gratitude. You're helping other people. You think bigger than yourself. Maybe you don't think community, but you can just think, I can help that person and I can help this person. And at some point, you're going to think bigger, and you're going to go build schools or build houses and things like that. And so I think those are the things that have made me successful. They all learned qualities that I've gotten over the years. And I think if you look at other people and if they have those particular things, I think you're going to see that they are more successful than others.
Wonderful sharing. Before Susan start, I want to follow up, okay, with your share, Emily. You said you were stressed out while you were spending 1 week with Sharon. What's going on in your mind that you were stressed out? You spend a lot of money. You invest in a lot of money to hang around with leaders like Sharon, right? Sharon Lecter. What's going on in your mind that you stress out? Would you tell us what's going on there?
Well, for me, because when you're with let's say you're spending time with your coach, right? Or your mentor, maybe you're spending a weekend where they're training you. It's a business sense. You know what I'm saying? When let's say when I go on a retreat at her ranch, yeah, of course. I mean, in the morning we all wake up and go eat breakfast and then go back and change. It's a little casual, but this is in a foreign country, and you're with her pretty much 24/7 until when you go to bed. Then you just go into your room. So for me, and I'll tell you the first day that we were there, because I was rooming with one of her friends, and then she was with her husband, and she said, "Okay, we're gonna meet tomorrow at 5 a.m." Okay, and I'm thinking, yeah, right, okay, 5 a.m. So my friend and I, we woke up, we put the alarm, we woke up at 4:30 or whatever, changed, and we took the elevator down. And I'm looking, and I go, oh, it's just about 5, right? And she said, I bet you Sharon is already down here, right? And we walk out the elevator, and sure enough, she's there, right? So she was there before us, and she's older and everything else, right? And here we are trying to wake up. So for me, the stress was, you're going to be casual for this whole week, okay? So how are you going to be, right? Are you going to be lazy? I know myself, but it's I guess it's similar to if you're going to hang around with your mother-in-law and you don't know her very well, right? And I don't know my mother-in-law very well. I actually married my husband for that good reason, because mother-in-law was in Vietnam, right? And I said, oh yeah, that's one qualification. I don't have to be her daughter-in-law. And so I don't know her very well. So my first trip back was very stressful. Okay, what am I supposed to do? I know all the right things to say, as an educated adult, but still you're with somebody that you don't know. So it wasn't I didn't know Sharon, but it was, it's different when you're gonna be there for 2 days on a retreat and you're there with several people, right? And this is you and her husband. That's it. And then there was a friend of her who was there for 2-3 days, and then she went to another retreat. So that was it. It's like your little family for a whole week. And I was stressed in the sense that it's not, I know she wasn't watching me or anything, but so which Emily show up, the casual one, or am I going to be late to breakfast? I mean, there was no time that you're supposed to wake up for breakfast. But if you're hanging around with her and she's going to be down there at 8 a.m., you just feel like, you better make it down there at 8 a.m., right? So that was my stress. Maybe stress is not the right word, but it's just interesting because she was, and I don't think she understands that, because I think it's more with us Asian. we, we tend to worry about those things. I mean, I think with Americans, if you think about it, they're on the first name basis, right? And so I don't think it's the same thing. And that is one of my limiting belief, obviously. And I got to grow out of it, right? So, like I tell people, I have staff who are older than me. I can't yell at them just because they're older than me, even though I'm pissed off. I'm just like, I can't yell at them. But if they're younger, I can yell at them. And it's because of the way we brought up our culture. You just can't yell at older people. You're supposed to respect them. And so when I'm with Sharon and Michael, her husband, it's even though they may treat you as equals in a sense, you're their clients, but I don't see it that way. So so I think that's the reason. It's interesting, and I still remember her. She was repeating it like 3-4 times in the car. I can't believe you just told me this. Just said, well, if I told you that at the beginning of the week, that would really ruin it, right? So,
Yeah,
I tell you at the end.
I totally relate to that. That's yes, it is a limiting beliefs about ourselves that we are not good enough, right? They say, other people might not accept us for who we are or how we show up as, right? So that's I think that's very, very normal, and it's a lot of us have that. A lot of us have that limiting belief that keep us from being courageous, right? Being ourselves and things like that. Let's get back to Susan. What about you? What were your top 3 valuable lessons that you have learned about your life?
Top 3. At the top is, I would tell you, humility. And some people they don't get that, what that means. I'm like, okay, humility, it means to be humble. And it's just no matter, I always tell people, listen, just because I have a doctor title, it doesn't make me better than you. Okay, I've just been blessed with the opportunity to further my education and get my doctor degree. All right, so humility keeps me, I truly think it helps to keep us grounded. I don't do, for example, in my practice, I wouldn't say just in medicine, but in different businesses, we have referrals, right? We choose who we'll refer patients to, or clients or coach. And it's just that relationship that we build. And I often tell people there's a fine line between arrogance and confidence. Arrogance, I don't do. Okay, just like Dr. Emily talked earlier about somebody having an ego, I don't have time for people with ego issues. I don't have time for people with ego, with arrogance. And if you're like that, you're not getting my patients. I'm not referring to you. You're not getting my patients. You're not getting my clients. So humility is just so important to have, to understand, and to live by. I mean, this is just me adding on to the 3 that Dr. Emily listed. I would agree with her 3. The next thing is perseverance. And I will tell you, there have been some different challenges in my life, whether it's academically, professionally, personally, personal relationships. If I had given up that easily, if my parents have given up and given in that easily, I wouldn't be here today. I wouldn't be with the 2 of you today. I wouldn't be where I am today. But it is, but the perseverance, as Dr. Emily had spoken about too, is hope. Hope, faith keeps you persevering, keeps you from giving up that easily, keeps me from giving up that easily. So it's just, listen, people, just don't give up. We've heard this before. Winners never give up. Winners never quit. Quitters never win. Okay, so persevere. Do not get. Another thing, 3rd, last but not least, is never lower your standards for anyone. I remember I was in college. I was probably a second year, so I was maybe 19, 20 in college doing my undergrad. And I was a research assistant to a student who was working on his PhD. So he's got his research program. I'm assisting him, and he became like a mentor, a big brother. And we were talking about, life and the challenges of the courses, and some relationship issues. And he said to me, he was the one that said, never lower your standard for anyone. Never change yourself to fit the standard and the needs of someone else so that they can like you. You just be you. You just be who you feel that you are, the best you that you can be. And that is something I have never forgotten that I share with others, whether it's patients, students, and mentoring, is never lower your standard. It goes along with being you, me, deciding to be the CEO of your life. I mean, if you're not in the driver's seat, guess what? Somebody else or something else is going to drive your life. And I made that decision long ago, at that time, late teens, early 20s, that no way, heck no, nobody is going to be driving my life. I'm going to be in that driver's seat. So those are my three top items. I'm sure, Dr. Emily and I, we can add to that list, but those are the three that's at the top of my mind at this present time.
Wonderful. I totally agree on those three valuable lessons. And I know that each of us have, we need to have all those lessons in order for us to realize life is precious, and we hold that power in our hands. We are the one who create our destiny, nobody else.
Yes.
Do you see yourself doing what you are currently doing for the next 10 to 20 years? If so, what would stay the same and what would change?
No, I do not see. I am gradually working my way out of seeing patients. I've been doing it for 20 years. I've been blessed with it, but I'm just gradually slowing. I want to gradually phase out on that so that I can get more into. Certainly, we love the travel, and the travel could be for pleasure, but traveling for speaking, traveling for coaching, traveling for mentoring, again, is just getting out there into the world and impacting more lives. I mean, it's wonderful to be able to travel, but of course, with this quarantine we have, we know that we can still impact lives like this virtually. And many of us, if not nearly all of us, have pivoted to that. So no, I do not. That is a big goal of mine, which I am starting to do, is phasing out from seeing patients and more into the coaching and impacting lives in that manner.
Yeah, so my ultimate goal is to be a world famous philanthropist. And everything I do is leading to that. What I'm planning to do is to phase out of treating patients, but maybe just do one day. Like, I'm not gonna totally leave the ops, because I think as a professional, if I'm coaching other professionals, the fact that I do run that business build more credibility. So right now I'm seeing patients 4 days a week, so probably see one day. You pick and choose which patients you have. It's helpful that my daughter Jennifer is in dental school, so I guess I'll sell the rest of it to her, right? And then I already, when I'm coaching people, it's already virtual. So this transition as far as the coaching didn't really affect that. The speaking obviously is a little bit different. I like to travel. I'm one of those people that just like anything new, right? That's why I take risks. If you take the Kobe, I'm the quick start, the one that make quick decisions and take risks and do weird stuff. So I like to travel for that reason. So when I'm accepting a speaking engagement, it could solely based on where we go. Let's say, well, I want to go. Okay, I'm going to go there. And And at the very least, I'm going to meet new people, right? Learn the culture. And sometimes Sharon would say, okay, is that the right audience? Like, well, good enough. That may not be the ideal audience, but I may want to go there because of the travel and the location and the adventure, put it that way. But ultimately, what I want to be is a philanthropist. So I want to build up that income where I can use it for philanthropy. I'm a very big fan, and one of the things I want to do is to build school. I know a couple of times when I went back home, it's really hard to walk into a classroom and basically see nothing in the classroom. Just tables, old tables. I remember when I was in school back home, we didn't even have a light in the classroom. So if you're in the afternoon class, which we were sixth graders, and it was raining, and you close the window, that was it. You can't see anything, right? Because if you open the window, then the rain's going to get inside. So if you close the window, the classroom is pitch black. And you come here and you see the kids have lots of things. And it's not, that you can't really do the exact same thing there, but that would be the first place I want to impact, which would be children education. And to give them that opportunity to have a good environment for them to learn. I remember we were in a classroom of 50 or maybe 55 students. And over here, if a classroom is more than 20, everybody's screaming. And I would just say, that's okay, they'll live. It's okay. You can have more than 20 students in the room. So those are some of the things that it is in my mind to be able to create that income where I can use that and do philanthropy. And I think the coaching and the speaking is a good transition to that, because it's already have to do with the traveling. It's already have to do with meeting other influencers. One of my friends on Facebook say, why do you need to be world famous? Because you could say, I want to be a philanthropist. Why do you say you want to be a world famous philanthropist? And I say, world famous, because then at that time, if I ask for money, people will give it to me, right? Otherwise, if they don't know me, if I ask them to donate, they're not going to donate. So a lot of my journey in doing the speaking and the coaching and putting myself on international stages and knowing people in different continents is for that reason. It's for that, ultimate motive, right? that later on I'm going to reach out and make those connections and hopefully change the world.
That's very touching. I forgot to mention that you do have a nonprofit organization, right, Emily?
And the nonprofit is we're giving free dental care to veterans and families of disadvantaged background. And but it's not so for me, one of the things that I'm frustrated with is people always say, oh yeah, I want to help and I want to give and but I don't want to go and do a dental mission or like they think it has to be so big. And for me, just do whatever you can and wherever you are. So it's easy for me. I already have the dental office. I'm already showing up to see patients. Why don't I just pick a day where I'm just going to give free dental care? And this is, I learned this from another doctor that I heard at a conference, and then the consultant that I mentioned before, he actually challenged all of us to do it once a year. And then I just took it a step further and I do it more often. And I haven't got to the point where, I'm asking for money, for donations to do that, because for me, it's just sort of part of my business. But when it comes to, if you want to build a school or whatever it is, then yeah, I would want to leverage, the local influencers, the people there, the people who know where your dollar goes, right? And it is used for whatever you mean for it to use. That's where I think we should learn to be influential and learn to ask for support, even if the support is about philanthropy. It has nothing to do with us, right? To just support other people, but you have to learn how to position yourself so when you ask, at least people listen and they can share the message for you.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. And because it's a non-profit, you volunteer, right? So basically the dentist could be you or could be your staff, provide a free care, free treatment, and then you can enroll other people, others like a student who are learning to become a dentist, to come and support you during those times, and it's it will spread the your mission, your purpose, in enroll more and more people in that community. So is that the 501c organization?
Yeah, it's a 501c3, and
Okay.
it's set up that way, but we haven't really functioned in that capacity where we ask for money. I think as I'm coaching other business owners and entrepreneurs, a lot of time, people always say, "Oh, I want to do this. I want to create a nonprofit." And I go, "You want the number? I'll give you the number of the person who can do this for you." And sometimes people just say things, but they don't follow through. And that's where I when I'm helping my clients, it's like, do you actually mean it? Is that part of your goals? Is that part of your clarity? Because if it is, then to be in alignment with it, let's just take the first step. Maybe the first step is just create the thing. What you do with it is going to be the next step. But if you just sitting here and say, I want to help, but I don't know when to help, or I'm going to, like for dentists in California, there's an event called CDA Care, California Dental Association Cares. And they do it, I think, twice a year, once up north and once in the Southern California, and let's say 10,000 patients show up, right? Well, I'm not going to wait until the thing happens. I can just do it today or tomorrow in my office. That's how I see things, and of course, I'm a little bit outside the box. But there are people who say, yeah, we're looking forward to that event. Well, you don't have to wait for the event. Just do it now. Just do it today, next week, next month, and then you can still go to the event. But you don't have to wait for somebody to give you that opportunity. You should just create the opportunity. And I think that's one of the reasons why I like to help business owners, because we have so much potential. And we can do a bunch of things in our business that we can just, we are our boss, and just do it. Just have somebody lead you, give you the idea, and you can just do it yourself. And that's where you're going to feel more fulfillment, right? The people who say, I'm burnt out and I'm in a rat race or whatever. Well, maybe because that's all you do. You just show up and you just do the work. You're not looking bigger. You're not creating opportunities. You're not helping people. That's the part that fulfills. It's not the transactional things that you do.
So if other Asian American women want to follow your footsteps, to be a doctor, right? To be an entrepreneur, to be a philanthropist, what would be your top 3 recommendations that they can do right now? Susan?
The top 3. Well, first of all, I want to know, what is it that they want to do and why? I want to know their why. Okay, well, first of all, they have to know their why, because your why drives you, right? We many of us have, in this personal development, we've heard this before. Your why comes first, then the how will come easily, okay? So whether they want to be a doctor, an entrepreneur, a philanthropist, I want to know why. What's driving you? What is, because you're going to need that drive. Are you just wanting it, like Dr. Emily said, just because so many people just talk? Okay, as we know, talk is cheap, okay? All right, fine, talk, then take action. But how much is this going to mean for you? How much of a burning desire? How big is that fire in there so that you can take that talk and turn it into a reality? So I want to know that first. And I'll have students, they'll have, oh yeah, I want to be a doctor. Great. You want to be a doctor because what? Do you know what it takes to be a doctor? I mean, let me hear it. I want to know how much the research they've done, and I want to hear it because I'm quizzing them, right? For example, we'll take doctor as a simple example, and I'm like, okay, do you know the path? How much schooling, et cetera, and so on. And also the cost. Is the cost going to be a turnoff? Because being a doctor these days in the U.S., you're coming out with a 6-figure student loans easily. So if you truly want something, how long it takes, the time and the money needed to invest in yourself, that's going to be not a factor. Because whatever you want, if you want it that badly, there's no obstacle. I mean, if there is an obstacle, guess what? You're going to go over it, under it, through it, around it, whatever it takes. So whatever it is that these Asian women want to be, I want to know. I want to sit down and really have a heart-to-heart, and I want to hear it. And I want to know what is it that drives you and your why. I want to know how deep that goes. Because if it's not deep enough, then don't waste your time. Don't waste your money. Just don't even bother. That's what I'll say to them. That's what I say. So.
I understand what Susan says, and I think as professionals, especially when we are older, we see far beyond, right, what they see. So it's easy to ask the why. But for most of them, they don't know the why. and they have to discover that. And so I think for me, it would be if somebody want to be a doctor, like an advanced education, the first thing I would try to get them to think is be inspirational. And what I mean by that is, what are you going to do with that degree, right? You're going to have a lot of money, or so from a lot of money, if they're talking about money and big house and things like that and fancy vacations, it's kind of similar to what Susan says, but I don't want to knock that down, right? I want them to think more, okay, so like with a big house, what are you going to do? With a lot of money, what are you going to do? So I want to inspire them to think bigger than just that degree and the money and the house. Because I'm going through that with my son right now. He's the smartest of the 3 kids, and he could get in. He applied to a lot of prestigious school or whatever. He wants to be an English teacher, and that's it. And even when I tell my patients it, they go, no, there's no money in it. And so I would, so now what do you tell the kid? And he's so young, he's not thinking money, right? But he's smart enough where he actually had asked his teachers, and they all told him that, no, you don't make a lot of money, right? They actually told him at the beginning they have to hold more than one teaching position or job or whatever in order to make ends meet. So he's smart enough to learn that reality. But if it were my aunt 30 years ago, she would have said, no, you're not going to be a teacher. You have to be a doctor, right? But when you can't do that to your kids, right? Even though somebody did that to you. So I would want to make sure that they find something inspirational in whatever they want to do. Like think bigger than just the money or the status. The second thing is, I would say, just like a lot of people do, which I didn't do very well when I was applying to dental school, is to learn as much about it as you can. In this day and age, it's so much easier, right? You can go watch a video or whatever. I think back when we were applying, we had to go shadow, right? Actually go and shadow, because there's no video on YouTube that tell you, what a dentist does or what a doctor do. And now there's so many, all those shows, Grey's Anatomy, that show you this crazy, doctor's lifestyle kind of thing. There was none like that. I remember I was trying to shadow, and I think the first day I went to shadow, I fainted. and I fainted for a very bad reason, because I used to not eat lunch when I was in college. I would take class in the morning, and then I just go home, right? I'll be done by 1 or whatever, and then I just go home. So I went from there and I went to shadow at a dentist's office, and in the afternoon, and then I guess I was hungry or something. I just passed out the first day, and for a couple of minutes. And then they wake me up and they go, "Are you okay?" And I go, "Yeah." And in the back of my head, I knew I was probably so hungry that I just passed out. But take those opportunities, right? Like, there's so much information out there, and people are just lazy. I just want you to tell them, what is it? What is it like to be a dentist? And well, go work in a dentist's office. Go different dentist's office and find out whatever you say you want to do. Like a very common one, if you ask some young people and they say they want to get into financial, right, stocks and trading because it makes a lot of money, but they actually have never been in that experience. And if you watch any of those movies that talk about those experiences, those are high stress. And do you actually want to sign up your life to be in a high stress situation? And the third thing, and this is one thing that when people ask me how I would do differently, I would give them this answer, and it is to slow down. If you set yourself for a higher goal, what's the word? Like a very demanding career, right? It could be demanding for you to have a family or spend time with your kids or whatever it is. Think about pacing yourself and think about slowing down, because you never get that time back. And this is also a hard part when you're talking to a young person. I mean, they don't understand that. And for you to tell them, hey, you should just slow down. They have no idea, like, what are you talking about? Because they're so young. And I do this with my kids, right? Like my son, he wants to be in choir and he wants to be in dance, and I have to stop him from doing something else, and he writes for the paper and all this, and he's always busy. And he's a 12th grader, right? So imagine if you throw him into college, how much work he's going to start, piling up on himself. And so teaching them now or advising them now, right now, to slow down and smell the flower, right? Just take your time, pace yourself. That's why you have people, young kids, being stressed, right? You have young kids committing suicide. You have young kids who are blaming the parents, like, oh, my parents never pay attention to me, that kind of a thing, because they never slow down and learn to be present at the moment with their family to make the best out of it, right? If you have a traveling parent, but they're home for the weekend, well, make sure you're home that weekend, right? Instead of you are out at another activity. So to be very conscious about the time you spend, slow down, and make the most out of everything you have. So I think what my advice doesn't really have anything much to do with, how well you can do in school, how you can be more competitive, that kind of a thing. It's really more understand that why you want to be there, what you can do once you're there, and it's not just the status and the money, and make sure you enjoy the journey as you're getting there.
Yeah. Telling the young people to slow down is really hard. I don't think they have a concept of pacing themselves or be present and things like that, because their mind is running 100 miles per hour. I think most people, they can be present or they can slow down when they reach maybe 50s, I would say, because otherwise, you multitask, you think so much, it seems like you don't see that you can slow down because there's so many demands from you in life. But it's always good to give them something to think about. So what do you want to be known for? You consider yourself a role model for the Vietnamese women? Susan?
the role model is to, well, if it's just not just Vietnamese, but any Asian woman, right, is not to fit into that stereotyping of Asian women. We're subservient, we're timid. No, my husband, who's, you met him, my white boy, as I call him, my American husband, he would joke, he would tease with people. He's like, oh yeah, she's my mail order bride, and look at how timid and subservient she is. I'm like, yeah, I'm really timid and subservient. But no, all joking aside, is there's just that stereotyping. But it's like, listen, people, this is 2020. Let's, whatever it is, as what your model, speak up, stand up, show up, know who you are, what is it that you want out of life, and stand up for it, and don't be afraid to speak up. Don't be shy, don't be timid. What is singing from your heart and soul? Get it out. Yeah. When you ask as a role model, don't be afraid. That was me in my teens, my 20s, early 20s. Thinking back, I would share with my husband. I'm like, yeah, come to think of it, people used to say about me, oh, look at Susan. She's so quiet. She's so shy. She's so timid. Well, now I'm 52 and all of life's crazy experiences. Okay, you know what? She's totally the opposite. Okay, I am not afraid because I know who I am. I'm comfortable in my own skin, and I'm just gonna be me. And being me helps to make it a better world as a role model than I would say similarly to other Asian women. It's just, don't be afraid. Just be you, because you know what? You being you, that's a pretty darn great thing. That's what I share.
I think a lot of time I want to inspire people to be the best version of themselves. And I want everybody to think of themselves as a role model. You could be a role model for your friends, right? You know, the one in school who is the football captain, right? Or maybe you're the head of the cheerleader. As a young person, you could be a role model. If you're working in the working environment, you could be a role model for your peers. If you're in a professional space, you could be a role model by being an influencer, by putting yourself out there. But whenever you think of yourself as a role model, I think what you do is you just have to walk a little straighter, right? You have to watch what you say. Because there are people watching, and in this day and age, there are so many people watching that you don't know. And I learned this when I go to a conference and somebody would walk up to me and say, "Oh, I see you on Facebook all the time," and I'm thinking, I don't know who this person is, and I have never been to this conference or this city, and so at the beginning it throws you off, right? And then after that, you just start, okay, I better watch what I say on Facebook or when I post or at a conference, because there are people around you listening. And I think if we can inspire young people, and they could be Asian, and when we talk about young Asian nowadays, they're born here, so they don't even have that bridge or gap or whatever that connecting the culture, and so they think like an American. And so I think when we inspire them to be a role model and tell them that wherever you are, be the best version of yourself. And usually you're not 100%. So you learn from somebody who's better. You learn from all the leaders. You learn from reading biography, right? And you strive to be that person. And you put yourself in the position that maybe the younger kids are watching me. Like my son, he's a 12th grader, and I remember when he was a sophomore, he was, okay, I'm in the, he told me I'm in this club called Links, what is it? Something Link, but he's supposed to show the freshmen the school, right? And you're just like, okay, so you've been there for a year, so you don't know, right? You're gonna show the freshmen. But But right then and there, the day once a week they have a meeting, and he put on that shirt, and it's a pink shirt with bright green words. He's a different person, right? They picked that particular color so the freshmen could see them. They could spot them out. On that day, the link, I think link, whatever, they there, and then you can come and ask them questions. Maybe it's about your class or whatever. So I like for people to think like that. And you can't think like that 100%. But before you make a difficult decision, if you think, if I'm the role model, what would I do? Right? If what I'm going to do right now is going to affect, the classes that come up after, how would I do that? And I know it sounds like I'm bragging a lot about my kids, because that's what every mom does, right? But I'll give you an example. My son, he went to his history teacher last year, and he said, we need some kind of like cultural, I can't remember what he said, but it's basically introducing cultural studies, right, to high school. And actually, when he went and told the teacher, he never told me. And all I know is this year, he said, the Board of Education of the school, they considering making that part of the curriculum, right? And I think the only reason he thinks about those things is because he's looking beyond the school, right? Well, the books he reads, the teachers who inspire him to always think bigger. And so when we can get our younger people to always think bigger than themselves, more than what can I do for this weekend? What kind of car can I buy, with my next check or whatever, right? To think bigger and think influence and think role model, we're going to have a better society because everybody wants to be the best version of themselves. And it's easier said than done. But if you repeat it often enough, it'll go through their heads. When my youngest turned 13, he told me, 14. He said, I am so happy I turned 14. And I go, what do you mean? And his two older siblings are sitting there. And he said, I will no longer have to hear you say, when I was your age, coming to the United States. Because I came to the United States when I was 13. So imagine every time one of them turned 13, it'll be when I was your age, right? And he said, I'm so happy I am now 14. I don't have to hear you say that again. But what that tells me is, you know what? It worked. Because you keep telling them that when I was 13, I had to do this and that. It worked because it stuck with them, right? They may say it as a joke, like I'm traumatizing them, but hey, whatever works. From a mom, that's your job, is to make it work for the kids and make the kids' life better. So the younger people have so much in their future. I think it's our job to just direct them, direct their energy, direct their passion a certain way, and they're going to have it so much better than us.
Yeah, I think the key thing is, as parents, we need to realize that, right? We are their coach. We are their guide. And if we are not proud to be a role model for them to follow or to assimilate, then who are we? Right? They don't have the role model, because the children, they watch every single thing from their parents. They don't listen. They don't listen to what you say, but they watch what you do. So as parents, especially the first immigrant, first generation, I highly recommend that you really look at how you interact with your children, what you say to your children. Are you doing what you want them to do, right? Because I see a lot of Asian parents, they are hypocrites. They tell the children to do one thing, but they're not willing to do what they tell the children to do. And that's really upsetting me. And it's important to realize that about that. So how do people find you, Susan? How do you want people to get in touch with you if they want to learn more about what you do?
Okay, they can find me. My website is beyondyour2020vision.com. Again, that's beyondyour2020vision.com. Or you can find me as Dr. Susan Truong on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. So, Dr. Susan Truong or beyondyour2020vision.com. And thank you so much for allowing me to have this opportunity to join both of you ladies today.
Thank you. Emily?
Yes, people can find my website. It's AmericanDreamCoach.com. And they can find me on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube. It's Coach Emily Letran. I would like to recommend for the listeners to download an ebook. It's exceptionalleverage.com/business report. And what it is it elaborates a little bit more on my story, and it shares my strategies of growing my professional businesses for the past 24 going on. I don't remember, 27 years, whatever it is. And it has more about the personal challenges that, of course, we don't have time to share here. And it's meant to serve as an inspiration for somebody to read that journey and to see that maybe we have some similarities, whether it's their parent or their own story, and to know that there's a lot of things that we can do beyond what we're doing right now if we just put our minds to it.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your time and your valuable input. Well, I hope you, our listeners, are enjoying and get a lot of insights from this interview. Please subscribe and rank and review our show, our Asian Women of Power YouTube and Asian Women of Power podcast. Until next time, live life loud. Goodbye now.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Asian Women of Power podcast. We encourage you to apply what you've learned here today to make your life a little bit better every day. For more tips, tools, practical ideas, and conversations around a business, life, and relationships so that you too can live life loud, we invite you to join the Asian Women of Power Facebook group at www.joinasianwomenofpower.com.